Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. Here with your hosts, Jacob Smedley,
Sam Betts,
Justin Reedhammer,
and Nathan Romanoff.
Our topics today include the NBA and NHL Finals are coming to a close. We'll give our predictions, some questions for next season, and much more. NFL season is coming up soon. Training camp is underway. We're going to give our top positions for some key positions around the field. And finally, a new segment here on the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast, our question of the show with a new video game that's breaking the internet. Hello, guys. Welcome into another episode of the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast. We're going to start things off with some finals in the NBA and the NHL. We'll first get into the NBA Finals. It's the Dallas Mavericks against the Boston Celtics. The Dallas Mavericks defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games, 4 games to 1, and the Celtics cruising through the Eastern Conference, sweeping the Indiana Pacers in the East Finals, 4 games to none. Guys, we'll start there. What are your thoughts on how the playoffs have gone to this point? Then maybe pose a little matchups as we get into the series. But what do you think about the playoffs so far and how it's gone?
Well, Jake, I mean, kind of just looking at our two teams here who are heading to the finals, I think they've had a pretty easy road. Maybe more the Celtics than the Mavericks. I don't know if the Mavericks have necessarily had the easiest one, but they've definitely been dominant. Both teams have been dominant in each series they have played. Kind of looking at the Celtics before they even got to the Pacers, they took down the number 8 seed Heat for the East in 4-1, and they also took down the Cavs 4-1. Looking at the Mavericks here, took down the Clippers 4-2, took down the number 1 ranked OKC Thunder for the West at least 4-2, and then took down the Timberwolves 4-1. So each team has had a pretty dominant stance in the NBA Finals so far, or in the NBA playoffs so far, and that's why they're going here to the finals.
Yeah, Sam, and you bring up a great point. Both of them kind of an easy ride. And, I mean, the Celtics, of course, the allegations, of course. Oh, it's an easy ride. They played the injured Miami Heat. They played the injured Cavs squad with Mitchell out, with Allen out for the duration of the series. Then the Pacers, Halliburton misses the final 4 games. But this was the best team on paper the whole season. I think the talent was going to win out, even if those guys were on the floor. I mean, they did have some games where they really played down to the competition, if you want to say it. But they belonged in the East. And, I mean, I don't agree with the whole easy ride for the Dallas Mavericks. It was dominant. They weren't supposed to be here, I think. I know going back to a preview of the playoffs, it was all about Jokic. I was dead wrong with the Thunder. I thought they were going to pull off some magic ride, but just the way Luka and Kyrie have been playing, they've been setting up the offense, they've been scoring themselves, and they've been setting up the other guys like Lively and Gafford. It's just been excellent ball to watch.
It's been a tale of duo so far here for the Celtics and the Mavericks, as you mentioned. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I mean, those guys both going third overall back-to-back years. Jaylen Brown 2016, Jason Tatum in 2017. Both those guys have been fantastic during this playoff run. But Jason Tatum, 40 minutes. He's averaging 40 minutes in this playoff run. 26 points, 44% from the field, 10 rebounds. You got Jaylen Brown, 36 minutes, 25 points, 54.1% from the field, and 36.8 from the three. I mean, those two guys have been electric so far. And then going on to the Mavericks, I mean, Luka Doncic. You can't talk about the Mavericks without talking about Luka Doncic. This guy's been averaging 41 minutes this playoff season, which is insane. Averaging 28.8 points, 43.8 from the field, 34% from three, 9.6 rebounds, 8.8 assists, and 1.6 steals. And then you have Kyrie coming in 40 minutes as well. well, 22.8 points, 48.5% from the field, 42% from the three, 5.2 assists, and 1.2 steals. I mean, it's been a kind of a duo matchup, and now as we get into the finals, we're gonna kind of see which duo is better.
It's going to be sort of a battle of the backcourts in the final. It's going to be really exciting to see, as you just laid out. Both guys, Kyrie, Luka, and Jalen Tatum playing fantastic ball this postseason. Yeah, I will say, not who I expected out of the West in the Mavericks. I think we talked about in a previous episode, Jake, how our thoughts. I thought the Nuggets would come out, and then watching the playoffs this season, after their loss to Timberwolves, I thought that this is the T-Wolves time. I thought it'd be a T-Wolves Celtics matchup, but genuinely, I was surprised. The Mavericks really dominated, and it's going to be interesting to see who handles it better, pressure wise in the finals. Obviously, the Celtics have been there. They were there 2 years ago, lost to the Warriors. This is Luka's first time in the finals. But then again, he's been playing professional basketball since like the age of 13 over in Europe. So I don't know how much pressure will play. I think it'll be a great matchup, though. And I am excited to see who really steps up out of maybe those four players that we've really keyed on. Who steps up and has the biggest series.
Yeah, I really agree, Nate. And speaking of matchups, I think the matchup that I'm looking for the most, once you kind of dive in to how both of these teams play, Boston really, again, struggled coming down to that competition. The late game stretch so far in these playoffs, they've struggled. They've let teams stay in, especially the Pacers. Self-inflicted wounds really down the stretch in a handful of those Eastern Conference Finals games. The biggest matchup for me is Boston's coverage against the deadly Dallas pick and roll. We talked about Doncic, we talked about Irving, but really every opponent they've faced, the Thunder, the T-Wolves, have really struggled to defend that pick and roll at all three levels. Doncic and Irving being able to knock down that mid-range, hit the little floater game at the free throw line, and also get it to the bigs. Lively, Gafford, kick it out in the corner. I mean, Boston has to be disciplined on those switches. They haven't faced anyone in these playoffs that has that capability and has that dynamic playmaking. So really interested. You talk about Doncic and Irving, but Drew Holiday, an All-NBA defender, and Derek White, what role are they going to play in slowing down this dynamic pick and roll?
Derek White, there's so many times during the regular season where this guy has just popped off. Getting him from the San Antonio Spurs in 2022 was such a great move. It was such a great move, and this guy is really. He's just, like I said, he's just popped off. He's at, like, this playoff season, he's averaging 35 minutes, 17.8 points a game. He's shooting almost 50% from the field goal, 40% from the three, and he's even almost got 1.3 blocks here. So, I mean, he's been amazing. Drew Holiday, this has kind of been his redemption story after being traded from the Bucks to the Trailblazers for Damian Lillard, and then being traded from the Trailblazers almost immediately to the Boston Celtics. I mean, this is his kind of like redemption arc. This is kind of why he wants to kind of show everyone, like, I shouldn't be put on like the back burner. Like, I'm going to be a part of another championship team. And he has the opportunity to do it as well. And he's been shooting 48.9% from the field. So, I mean, those guys they've just been giving him an extra boost. Drew Holiday is also averaging 12.7 points per game. So, I mean, both of these guys have just been really great on the offense as well.
Yeah, Drew Holiday is my X factor for the series. As you mentioned, Sam, he's been there before. His two-way play, his play on Doncic and Irving. He's my pick to be the X factor. Nate, what do you think in the X factor?
As you said, Drew Holiday, he's going to play a massive role for the Celtics in this. Obviously, the defense he brings to the table, the experience he brings to the table as well. Having been there and done it with Giannis and the Bucks back in 2021. But I think we can't leave out Kristaps Porzingis. He hasn't played. I forget exactly when he got injured, so he hasn't played in a while. But he is a dominant big man, and he does a lot for the Celtics, and he can facilitate the ball too. He's a facilitator as a big man. So if he comes back, I've heard a lot of analysts say if he comes back and plays pretty good basketball if he's able to, fit right back into the team as he was earlier in the season or, before he got injured, that Boston will take it. And I tend to agree with that. But if he doesn't, I don't know. It's really a toss-up. But he is definitely an X factor and one to watch out for. And I'm just curious what both of you would think about him coming back. How big is that for the Celtics and maybe what effect it might have on the team?
With him kind of going down with the soleus injury that he had during the Heat, I mean, the Heat that takes he's a pretty big player for the Celtics team. Al Horford's kind of had to step up a little bit in that spot for him. Like Al Horford, he's a veteran guy. I think Kristaps is a little bit better than him, but in just kind of like height wise, just able to do a little, and I feel like Kristaps is able to do a little more. I think Al Horford's been good in that role, but if Kristaps comes back, I think he's going to be a really big part in that offense, especially kind of when you're coming like guys like PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, those guys for the Mavericks. I think he's going to be a key piece in kind of trying to hinder their production.
Yeah, the length defensively, I think he makes the team deeper, especially when you're talking about a veteran like Al Horford who's up there in age, playing those starter minutes, especially Luke Cornett, running around up there as a bench big. You have Porzingis, you can put him back in there at the 5, you can move Horford around off the bench, play him in double big lineups, both can shoot. I think it helps out a lot in the inside game, the pick and roll game. Really didn't have that. It was more pick and pop with Horford, not really rolling to the rim. You have that threat with Porzingis. So I think, as you mentioned, Nate, it's a big difference maker if he's any kind of healthy for this, especially offensively, but defensively. But guys, kind of taking a step back for a second, we'll get to the predictions in just a second. Looking at both conferences, we'll start on the Western Conference. Is there a team that you think could be next year's Mavericks, maybe that was in the playoffs this year or wasn't, but could make it? You've got the Thunder, who are a great young team, the T-Wolves, of course, the Nuggets, who lost. Do you guys have a pick maybe to be next year's Mavs?
For the West, I'm really liking that Nuggets team right now. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just such a great basketball player, and I think he's going to be a really good star kind of coming up here in the future. I feel like that team is just still really young. They did come in as the 1 seed, but it was kind of just hard for them, just how young they were. A lot of inexperience kind of coming into a playoff situation. I think kind of as Shai kind of develops into his own player a little bit more, and they kind of just build up that team a little bit more and maybe have less drama from some other teammates that are a part of that team. I think they'll kind of come into their own and kind of develop as a really good team. For the Eastern side, I'd love to say the 76ers, but they got to figure something out, man. Like they're able to they can get to the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. They can definitely get to the playoffs, but just to kind of make a deep run, they just struggle. They need to figure something out. I don't know. I want to look at that Heat team a little more. The Heat, they've been to the playoffs recently. Especially they've been to the finals in 2020. They were part of that NBA Finals team. It's just they got to figure out something too. Obviously, Jimmy Butler playing a really big role in that team, but I'd kind of like to see what they do. Obviously, they also have Bam Adebayo, a couple other players as well, but kind of look at them, see how they kind of develop as the years go on, see if they can make another finals appearance.
The West is so competitive. There's a lot of good teams, a lot of talent. Definitely the deeper of the two conferences, in my opinion. I think the Nuggets are the Nuggets. I think that they'll be back definitely in contention. I think they'll be in the Western Conference Finals next year. I think they'll bounce back. I think the Thunder maybe still a little bit too young, but I do like the Timberwolves. I think that, they have a nice balance of youth and experience. Obviously, Ant Edwards, and then you have, Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. I think that they are a real threat to make a deep run and maybe even represent the West next year. So that would be my pick out of the West. And in the East, pains me a little bit to say this as a Sixers fan, but I think the Knicks, you got to watch out for the Knicks, man. They looked really, really good this postseason with a lot of their starters, down and a lot of key pieces missing. They really relied heavily on Jalen Brunson. They didn't have no Julius Randle. OG had his injury issues. Bogdanovich wasn't there. I think that they're a real threat in the East, and I think it's really going to come down to them, Boston, maybe the Sixers if they can stay healthy. Milwaukee's got a lot of issues. I think they got to figure out. So right now, I'd say the Knicks are looking as the biggest threat to Boston in the East going into next year.
Yeah, I think you guys bring up some great points, some great teams. For me, I think you're doubting the Thunder. I'm on the Thunder train. I know they're young. This was the taste. This year was the little taste. They got the little taste. They got a series win. They got to the second round. They lost to the eventual team that has now made the finals in the process. And Kyrie Irving even went on record and said the OKC Thunder team was one of the hardest series he's ever played as a competitor in the NBA. I'm going to take that for what it is. The Thunder have one of the most open cap spaces, nearly $35 million this offseason. Go out, get another big next to Chet Holmgren. He can't do it alone. You've got Jalen Williams. You've got Shea, you've got Chet, you got to round out that bench. They have the number 12 pick. I'm all for the Thunder. Their reign of tyranny in the West, along with those other teams, I think might start next season. I don't know if they're going all the way to the finals. They didn't fill my prophecy this year, but next year, I think they're going to be right back where they were and even potentially in the Western Conference Finals, if not further. And in the East, Nate, I'm right there with you. The New York Knicks, go New York, go New York, go. Don't know if I've ever thought I'd say that, but the OG Anunoby, Isaiah Hartenstein, two guys they need to re-sign, need to bring back, and I don't know. I'm thinking maybe cooking up a Julius Randle for Donovan Mitchell if he becomes available. That might be on the table. That's a guy that's been rumored to go to New York for a while. I think they're a team to watch for a lot of guys on that trade fringe. Again, we've discussed it. The Sixers have to figure out some things if they want to be in that contention. Well, finals prediction time, guys. Who wins how many games?
I'm gonna give it to the Celtics. I want to say in six. I'm gonna say in six. The reason being, I think this is it. I think this is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been kind of on this cusp. We've been talking about a lot of teams on the cusp. The Celtics have been one of these teams kind of on the cusp, like in the playoffs multiple years, getting deep into the Eastern Conference side of the bracket, even kind of getting to those Eastern Conference Finals. I think this is their time. I think this is the time where kind of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown kind of solidify themselves as NBA greats. And I don't know. I feel like Boston has the deeper team. I feel like obviously for the Mavericks you have Luka and Kyrie, and they've been doing a fantastic job. But I think the Celtics just have the deeper team. Kind of if Kristaps does come back, Derek White and Drew Holiday. Also looking at Al Horford. Even I want to mention Peyton Pritchard, who's played a pretty good role off of the bench, kind of being a guy who comes off, gets a couple threes. But I just feel like Celtics have the deeper team, and I feel like this is where this is where this duo kind of solidifies themselves as NBA greats.
It pains me to say, but I have to agree with you, Sam. I just think Boston. I think they've had the best roster all year. I think they have the better team going into the finals. I think it goes 7 games. I want to say I really do. I want it to go 7 games. I think in my heart that it very well could. I think the two backcourts are going to be battling it out, tight, close games. Perhaps a game winner or two thrown in there. But I just think that the Celtics, as you said, it feels like it's their time. They've been on the cusp. They've had that experience. They were in the finals. They lost to the Warriors. They're back now against a less experienced team, the Mavericks. I just feel like it's set up for them to fulfill that prophecy to bring the NBA championship back to Boston. So I'm going Celtics in 7.
I'm going to make it a clean sweep. I'm going to agree with Nate in the game. Celtics in 7. First 4 games are really going to decide the series in my eyes. How the Celtics start. They don't mess around. They don't play around with the Mavericks. If they take it serious right from game 1, this could be Celtics in 6, like you said, Sam. But I think it's going to go back and forth. But I think the Celtics' talent and talent overload is going to prove too much in the end. Celtics in 7. Well, it's transitioning from one league that's wrapping up to another that is coming to an end, coming into the summer months. The NHL is wrapping up. We have one team that already punched their ticket. The Florida Panthers, for the second consecutive season, will be representing the Eastern Conference in the NHL Finals after defeating the New York Rangers, the team with the best record in the entire league, the most points, down in 6 games. The Panthers in the finals. And right now, as we are recording, the Edmonton Oilers up 2-0 on the Dallas Stars in a potential deciding Game 6. If the Oilers hang on, it's in the second period right now. If they hang on, they will meet the Panthers in the finals. Nate, just a quick reaction to, before we dive into a potential matchup here.
It's been a fantastic Stanley Cup playoffs up to this point. I mean, as you said, the Panthers, second straight year in a row, back in the Stanley Cup Finals. Personally, very happy with that outcome, beating the Rangers in 6 games. It hasn't been an easy road for them. They had to start off playing their in-state rival, the Tampa Bay Lightning, beat them 4-1 in that series. Moved on to the Boston Bruins, who are always a tough team. In recent years, they've been right up there, top of the Eastern Conference. They were able to handle them in 6 games. And then, as you said, the top team in the league, the New York Rangers, the number 1 overall seed in the Eastern Conference. And the Panthers were able to handle them in 6 games. Very impressive. I watched quite a few of those games, especially against the Rangers. Panthers, what stuck out to me, their penalty kill is fantastic. I mean, the Rangers, who had one of the best power plays in the regular season and in the postseason, really were shut down by that Florida penalty kill. They did a fantastic job of limiting chances and stifling that Rangers power play. And the play of Sergei Bobrovsky, their goaltender, he was fantastic as usual. So very excited for them. And then in the West, as you said, it's not been decided yet, but Edmonton, as of recording this, are currently up 2-0 in Game 6 against the Stars. If they were to go on to win, very exciting. I mean, Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Final, very easy story to get behind. It's been quite some time since a Canadian team won the Cup. I believe the early 90s was the last time it happened. So, but Edmonton, they've had a tough road to get there. Beat the Kings in, I believe, 5, and they beat Vancouver in the second round, who were the 1 seed in the Pacific, 4-3. And now Dallas, like I said, series is 3-2. If they go on to win, it'll be an Edmonton-Florida Panthers matchup, which I think would just be great.
So you're for that matchup, Nate? You're looking for, you want Edmonton, Florida at this point? You don't want to come back?
If you want, yes. I don't, listen, Dallas has had enough joy. They've got the Mavs in the NBA Finals. They don't need the Stars in there. They also just had the Rangers win a World Series, so plenty of joy down there. Except if you're a Cowboys fan, because they stink. But I am for the Canadians. I'm for Edmonton. Connor McDavid, I think we've talked about it. Best player in the league. Leon Draisaitl, right there with him. Top 3 player in the league as well. I think it'd just be great to see those two in the Stanley Cup Final for the first time in their careers, and really, get to showcase themselves to a bigger audience on a national level. I just think that it would be great, and I think they really need it. They've been there. They've been poking, at the door, knocking at the door for the last couple seasons. I feel like it's their time. I feel like this is the best chance that they've had in a long time. So yeah, I'm back. I'm here to back Edmonton.
All right, yeah, I agree. I'm really interested to see, too. You mentioned the Panthers, just the way they've been able to really limit those star players in the process on the penalty kill, going through Pasternak with the Bruins, really limiting his production. Same with Panarin and Zibanejad with the Rangers. I mean, their defense and their strong starts, getting out to 1-2 goal leads very early. I think that's what would also make this series so intriguing, because the Oilers are also already up 2-0, as we mentioned. They got out to a hot start in games 4 and 5 and really set the pace. So, I mean, that would be a great series in terms of fast starts and that star power against great defense.
Oh, 100%. And if you look at, points leaders in the postseason, Edmonton, they've got 4 of the top 5 point getters across the postseason, which is just insane. 4 different guys on their team with 20 points or more in the postseason. So that just shows you how potent the Oilers' offense has been. And I think it'd be a fantastic matchup to see them up against that stout and physical style of play that the Panthers bring. You get that matchup. My concern for being an Edmonton fan in that matchup would be their defensive capabilities. If they are stifled offensively by that Panthers defense, if Bobrovsky is lights out like he's kind of been this postseason, it might be tough for Edmonton to really, ride those low-scoring games and be able to pull them out, especially against a team like the Panthers, who have been doing that all postseason, really, who are used to those grind them out, low-scoring 2-1, 3-2, 3-1 games. So we'll see what happens, but I think that would set up to be a great series. And hey, listen, if the Stars come back tonight and they manage to take Game 7, kudos to them, and I think that'll also be a great series. The Stars had the second most points in the regular season, just behind the Rangers. So they've been fantastic all year. They've got a great goalie in Jake Ottinger. They've got a lot of young stars, Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz. I think it'd be a great matchup as well. So both matchups will be good.
All right, Nate. I know you said both will be good, but we have to pick one here. Now, of course, it sounds like you're going with the Oilers to take the game and make it to the finals. But regardless, Oilers, Stars, who do you have in the finals, and who wins it in how many games?
Yeah, so for the sake of it, I will say the Oilers are going to be representing the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals. An Oilers-Panthers matchup, I believe in my heart that if it comes down to that, the Panthers will take that series in 6 games. I think that the Panthers, last year they got there as an underdog, unfortunately fell to the Vegas Golden Knights, who had a fantastic team. They're back this year. The Panthers, experienced. They've been there. They felt that loss. I mean, they didn't even touch the Eastern Conference Finals, trophy. They didn't want anything to do with it. That's not the silverware they're after. They're after the cup. So I think that they mean business. And I would say, regardless of whether it's the Oilers or the Stars, I think the Panthers will win the cup this year.
Now, Nate, I was on the fence. Because I was right there with you, Panthers in 6. But I'm going on the other side. I'm going to the Edmonton Oilers. And I think it's either going to be the Panthers in 6 or the Oilers in 7. No other in between. I think if the Oilers are going to win it, they're going to go all 7. It's going to go back and forth. If the Panthers are going to win it, could be in 5, could be in 6. Just the style of play wearing them down. But I'm gonna go on the other side. Oilers in 7. We'll see who comes out on top with that prediction. Or the Stars go crazy and all of that is out the window. Well, maybe not Nate's prediction. But we'll keep an eye on who wins, who loses, as we move forward to the end of the season. But one season getting underway, training camp, guys coming in, free agents still kind of moving, guys signing contracts with the draft, whatever. Justin, the NFL position rankings. We got some. I got some. Justin, Nate, Sam. I think Sam has a few. Justin, take it away.
Thank you, Jacob. As you just mentioned, we're going to be going over some positional rankings. I just had the idea where, I watch these shows like Stephen A, where they do these things and then everybody argues about them. So that's kind of what I was envisioning here today. So what we're going to do is I've got a couple of positions here. I've got about a top 3 players at this position. I've ranked them, of course, and we're just going to discuss based on my criteria or your criteria, but my criteria for picking these was if I was building a team as a general manager today and I could have any player, regardless, contracts, anything, if I could have any player, who would I take? And so I think we should start somewhere that we mentioned before the start of the podcast. We're going to start wide receiver. Of course, when you're building a franchise, you want to take into all sorts of things. You want to take into the previous season they just had. You want to take into the account their age, how much longevity they have, as well as their playmaking ability on the field. And when it comes to playmaking ability, I don't think anybody is a better playmaker than my number 3 option, Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins. I think that he would be a fantastic option to have for your franchise, even if he's only going to play for 2 years, because let's be honest, every season he's going to play, he's going to be over 1,500 yards and at least 10 touchdowns. So he's going to be that guy that is going to make you relevant. The only reason the Dolphins even touched the playoffs last year is because of this guy. So I think that if you have the option, you should go for him, but maybe not ahead of my number 2 pick, Puka Nacua of the Los Angeles Rams. I think Puka Nacua is a star about to burst. Really, I think he was fantastic last season, just under 1,500 yards. Not great in the touchdown category, but I think he can definitely improve there. He's made some spectacular catches, and he was only a rookie. So I think that he might get some pretty good usage this year. But at number 1, I would say, if I was taking a team, I would pick Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions, only 24 years old, superstar caliber player. I think that Nate's shaking his head over there. I know he was expecting players like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, but to be honest, they didn't have great seasons last year, all right? That's just the way it goes, whether you think so or not. It's true.
So apparently we're only basing these lists off of last season. I mean, that's what I found out from Justin's list. You got Puka on there, who has 1 season under his belt. He's a rookie. Granted, yes, he was fantastic, but I need more time to see where he goes. And then you're saying age. Amon-Ra is great, but I'm sorry. I'd easily take Jay Jettis or Jamar Chase over Amon-Ra. They're both just as young as he is, and I think they've both proven to be just as good, if not better, receivers.
I'm not picking the best players in the league. I'm picking the guys that I want on my team, that I want my quarterback throwing the ball to. These are the guys.
How could you not have Justin Jefferson? I know he didn't have great stats last year, but he was injured, keep in mind. Also, he didn't really have anybody that great throwing him the ball. I mean, after Kirk Cousins went down. So your criteria I understand, but dude, he's young. He's fantastic. I mean, you've seen what he can do. I mean, that catch he had against the Bills. Come on. I mean, I think he's easily one of the best, if not the best, route runners in the league, and you got to have him on your top 3 list, Justin. I think it's ludicrous.
He's a fantastic player, and I thought about him. I really did.
How do you? I don't understand how you have Puka over him after Puka's only had one. He's had one season. One season, Justin
had a great season last year. I think he's the next Justin Jefferson.
I kind of understand where Justin's coming from. If you're kind of building a team.
Come on, Sam.
Come on. Listen here. If you're building a franchise, if you're building a franchise, and you kind of are and you can pick whoever. If you see Puka first year doing really well, you can pick. Choose him.
Are we picking to win a Super Bowl in year 1? Or are we picking to win a Super Bowl in 2-3 years?
Exactly.
You're picking to win a Super Bowl whenever you can and for as long as you can. So
first year, I'm picking Justin Jefferson to win a Super Bowl.
And guess what? He's 24 years old as well, Justin. All right, same age as Amon-Ra.
Nate, do you have your list, or do you want me to go?
I do have a list. You know who's at? I think you take who's a guest at the top of that list. It's Justin Jefferson. All right, he's fantastic. I think he's the best receiver in the league, talent-wise. He's 24 years old, just getting started. He's got the star power with him as well. He's the guy I'd want, to start with, building a franchise. Tyreek Hill is also on my list. I have him at 2. He's a little older, but like you said, Justin, the stats don't lie with Tyreek Hill. He is consistently been a top 3 receiver for how many years running now. Went from the Chiefs to the Dolphins, where he's, continued to play fantastic there. And then the third spot on my list, there's some conjecture there for me. I think it's more open, but I put another guy who we talked about. I just edging out somebody else. I put Jamar Chase 3. I think that he's young and has that star power and capability similar to Justin Jefferson. I think he's right up there. If I had to go with 3 guys right now who I'd want to build, around and have as a receiver, I think those 3 guys would have to be on my list.
Mine is very similar to Nate's. I put two honorable mentions. Nate mentioned one of them, Jamar Chase. The other is A.J. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is in there as well for me. 3 is a name that hasn't been mentioned yet, and it pains me to say this, C.D. Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. I think he's that good. He is in the slot a lot, but the way he impacts the offense, that's what I'm saying. What would Dak Prescott be without C.D. Lamb? I'd love to hear it. What would that Cowboys offense be without C.D. Lamb and his production during the season? That's what I'm looking at for him. His explosiveness for a struggling offense, thrives in man-to-man coverage, and has elevated his quarterback to these elite number 2 in the league bozo level conversations here. All right, number 2, Tyreek Hill. I think you guys said it best. I mean, the deep threat. He is the best deep threat wide receiver in the league. His ability to stretch the field not only helps himself out, his quarterback, but also his teammates on underneath routes. Led the league in yards, tied for the lead in touchdowns, best in the league in 40-plus yard receptions with 9, only one other with 8 right underneath him. And number 1, Nate, I'm right there with you, Jay Jettas. Justin Jefferson is my number 1 receiver. He was injured. Really want him to get out of there and get with a good quarterback like some of these other guys have with them. Maybe J.J. McCarthy can develop into something to help him out. But yeah, Justin, that's the face I'm making. Like he's in rough waters right now.
Let's move to another receiving position. This time, though, a little more blocking involved. Let's go to the tight end position. Now, I don't think there's going to be a lot of argument for this one. I just threw it in here because I feel like we needed a little bit of agreement here. There might be a little bit of argument with the positioning, but for number 3, I got Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. He's very young, 23 years old, had a great rookie year. He had 10 touchdowns as a rookie. That was just fantastic. So I think that he's going to really grow and develop into a star player. Number 2, I have Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. A little older, 28, but still he's got a lot of years left in him, probably 5 or 6. And he's also a very good, talented tight end. Even though he did have some injury problems last year, I think that he'll be back and ready for more. And then at number 1, you can't mention the tight end position without mentioning Travis Kelce. He's 34, he's old, but this guy is the best tight end in the NFL, and it isn't close. So I think that you have to seriously consider him if you are picking a tight end.
Yeah, of course, Justin. I mean, I think that he's unanimous number 1, Travis Kelce. I'll say he's number 1 on my list. Number 2, it's a bit tighter for me. I had, think about it. But I'm going to go with a guy who, personally, I really like. He did have some injury issues this past season. But I'm going to go with T.J. Hawkinson. I think he's, been fantastic throughout his career. He started, obviously, in Minnesota, made the move over to... Oh, wait. No, did he start in Detroit and then go... He started in Detroit and then went to Minnesota. Sorry, got my teams mixed up there. I love his style of play. Big target. I just think he's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And then at my 3, I have Mark Andrews as well, a guy who was also injured last year, but very consistent. He's been one of the best tight ends in the NFL going on, a good few seasons now. So Mark Andrews makes on my list as well. And, Sam Laporta, I'll give you, he's right there. I mean, definitely top 5, I think, for me. He's knocking on the door there to be in that top 3. Still a rookie, so wait to see how he does in his second year, but well, I love Laporta, so he definitely gets an honorable mention for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nate. Honorable mention, Laporta. I'm going to put TJ Hawkinson in there. You guys both mentioned him. Nate, you mentioned it at number 2. I think we're missing a big name here, and he's my number 2. Mark Andrews is my number 3. Just what he's done with Lamar Jackson really has been his number 1 receiving option, especially with all the receivers that have not come through Baltimore, and Andrews has been that number 1 target for him. He's battled some injuries, but has really been a workhorse. Number 2, guys, is George Kittle still in the league? Is George Kittle... I see you smiling over there. I was wondering if George Kittle was still in the league. He's been debated with Kelsey as the best tight end in the league. Kittle's 2, Kelsey's 1. I'm in agreement. I'm just shocked. I am just shocked.
I was hurt to put Kelsey on just because I looked at the age, and it was 34. It's like, you got 2 seasons max. But that's the reason I didn't consider Kittle, because Kelsey is better, and I'm only going to put one receiver over 30. I'm going to only put one player over 30.
Okay. I see that.
Jake, he definitely, entered my mind. He's there. I don't know. I don't think he's quite as athletic as TJ Hawkinson personally, and I like a more of athletic, type of tight end. Also, he gets points deducted for wearing that ugly helmet that he wears. I hate that helmet. I mean, it's my least favorite helmet in the league. So every time I see that, it irks me a bit. So maybe that played into my decision. He's in the top 5. I mean, he's right there with Sam Laporta in that top 5 conversation. Don't get me wrong, but
let's move to the running backs here. Actually, let's get to the backfield where we might have a little more controversy here. I don't know. I'm going to mention an honorable mention right now because I want to honorably mention Saquon Barkley. I think that he's a great option to have. I didn't put him in my top 3 just because he's getting a little older nowadays, but he's still a pretty fantastic option to have. But I'm going to go at number 3. You guys aren't going to like this, but I think he's going to get better this season. Running back James Cook of the Buffalo Bills, only 24 years old. He was a great option out of the backfield for Buffalo. Over 1,000 yards. First time Bills have had an over 1,000-yard rusher since LaShawn McCoy. Then we move over to my number 2 spot, which you also might not like, but I put Kyren Williams of the Los Angeles Rams. Listen, he also had a pretty similar stat line, except he had a lot more touchdowns. He was looking at 12 touchdowns rushing. He was very good first season for him. I think he's only going to grow as a player. I really do. He's going to be really good next season for Matthew Stafford. But number 1 is, of course, Christian McCaffrey. He is the best running back in the National Football League. Only 27 years old, and if you're building a team and you have the option to get Christian McCaffrey, you're paying whatever you need to pay. That man needs to be rostered.
So I like the buy-up picks, Justin. I like the buy-up picks, but I'm going back to the same conversation we had for wide receivers. Are we picking guys right now to help you win a Super Bowl? Are we picking guys that are going to develop into a star player in a few years and then help you win the Super Bowl? That's just what I want to make clear.
Listen, I'm picking guys that are not only going to produce this year, but are also going to produce in the years to come. That's who I'm picking.
Just wanted to make sure that I understand that. That's all. I think there are more than a few guys that are better at that position than a few of those you mentioned. That's all. But that's the way you looked at it.
I might have a type when it comes to this position personally. I like receiving backs personally. I do. So I might have a bit of a type.
Nothing wrong with that. Just wanted to clarify. I'll give mine. I provided some critiques. I'll give mine. 3 is debatable. He has had some injury history. You can make the argument against it. He was hurt all of last year. Nick Chubb, Cleveland Browns, is number 3 for me.
I did consider him. I will say that.
I have him there. Saquon, Jonathan Taylor has battled injuries. He's an honorable mention for me. Number 2 is Derrick Henry. I know he's getting up there in age. I know he's battled injuries. but he's going to a Baltimore team where I'm really excited to how they can build his skill sets. He's a guy that if you have around the offense, he carried some of those Titans teams to the playoffs around a team built on his running level. And that's just what I'm buying with alone. With his skill set through the holes, through the running game. I know he's not a great pass catcher, but he's number 2 for me, and I agree McCaffrey is number 1. I'm not a young guy. I'm going with the veterans. I'm going with the experience here. I want to win a Super Bowl now. That's what I'm going with.
Well, when my team rolls over you in like 3 years, man.
That's fine. That's fine. If I have this, if I have this, man, if I have this, there's no guarantee you have this in 3 years. I'm going Aaron Donald. Here. That's what I'm saying.
Jake's going the route of the Rams here. You know, he's in a win now.
He's a one and done.
The
now
first
mentality.
round draft picks are gone. The first round draft picks are gone. I'm going all in.
Your list, it's more of a preference thing. I just don't necessarily like some of the guys that you had on it as much as I like some of the other guys I had on my list. To speak to Jake, Nick Chubb, I love Nick Chubb. I think he's fantastic. I just think that the type of injury he had last year, I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, at his age and at his position to really come back and be as effective, I think, as he has been in the past. So he doesn't make my top 3, but I will give him an honorable mention on there. Another honorable mention I'm going to give is B. John Robinson. I think he's a young, fantastic back that has a very bright future and who I would personally take over the young backs that, Justin, you highlighted. Not to say those guys don't have bright futures as well. I just think Bijan personally fits me more. At number 3, I have another young back, but he's just personally my favorite. He stuck out to me last year. I love what I saw from him. I think he's got a bright future. It's Jamar Gibbs from the Detroit Lions. Now, I know he was in a 2-back system there with David Montgomery, but I just think, his explosiveness, his big play ability. Justin, you said, receiving backs kind of. He fits that role very well. I had him on fantasy, and I loved him. So maybe that plays into it too. But I have him there on my list at number 3. Number 2, similar to Jake, Derrick Henry. A win-now mentality. I mean, King Henry, he's been that guy now for years. Everybody's been talking about. I think he's a fantastic back. A little older, but, I think he's really, really going to show up and show out for Baltimore. I think he wants that ring. And number 1 is obviously Christian McCaffrey. He is the best back in the league, and I do think that it's not a debate. And a quick word on my boy Saquon Barkley. I love him, Penn Stater. My issue is he's had a lot of injury issues in his career. He wasn't on a very good team in the Giants. He's down in Philadelphia now. I hope everything goes well. And I hope he stays healthy, because if he does stay healthy and he does produce, then he is in that top 5 conversation easily. Maybe he could work his way up to the top 3. But just because of that, I kept him off the list.
All right, let's move to the final position that I had planned out for us today. We couldn't talk without mentioning the quarterback, of course, the most important position on the field, the general, as it would be. Now, at number 3, you might see some surprise here, but I would go with C.J. Stroud of the Houston Texans. Again, it was his rookie season last year. Still need to see more, but he had a great season, over 4,000 yards, over 20 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. He had a very good year, and I think that it's a lot to build on. A lot of people are very hyped for Houston, and I'm one of those people. I think Houston's going to be really good next year, and they're going to go as far as C.J. Stroud can throw him. But hopefully they can't throw him past my number 2 option. I would pick Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills at my number 2. Only 28 years old, had the 4th most passing yards last year. He was 29 touchdowns, 18 interceptions. Yes, a lot of interceptions last year. Hopefully he can clean that up, but he is one of the best players in the National Football League. You cannot deny it. He had 15 rushing touchdowns, which was the most for any quarterback, tied for the most with any quarterback, with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he produces 40 touchdowns a year. I want a guy like that on my team. But, of course, I wouldn't pick him over the number 1 option, Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. He is also amazing, as you know, over 4,000 yards. But, listen, this guy is he's different. He's the next level. He has 3 Super Bowl rings and he's 28 years old. He is the best football player in the league, and if you have a chance to get him, doesn't matter what you got to do, you get him on your team because he's going to win you a ring.
Back up the Brinks trucks. Back up the Brinks trucks. You can take all the money you want.
You can take every player off the field, put the practice squad on, and Patrick Mahomes will win you a Super Bowl.
I don't know about that far, but he's definitely that type of player.
He basically had practice squatters on the receiving end there, and he still won the Super Bowl. So
I guess that's true. The receivers, a lot of stone hands this past season, but he did have Travis Kelce, who is unanimous number 1 tight end. So keep that in mind. But Justin, as you said, number 1 on the list. I think he's going to be number 1 on all of our lists. I don't think that'd be a surprise. C.J. Stroud, again, you're following the trend of rookies. He had a fantastic rookie season. Obviously got a playoff win with the Texans. I don't put him quite into my top 3 on this list. He's more of an honorable mention. Love his style of play. Think he can grow, but still got to see a bit more from him to put him there. And I think a lot of quarterbacks fall into that category for me. But in my top 3, at number 3, I'm going to go Josh Allen. I think he's fantastic. I mean, he's a great playmaker. The ability to scramble is there, and he can throw the ball on a dot. I think his biggest flaw, obviously, is probably his, judgment sometimes, trying to do too much with the ball, forcing it where it doesn't need to be thrown. So, leads to turnovers. But I still think he's right there in the top 3. Number 2, I think this might irk Justin a little bit, that the 2-time MVP, Lamar Jackson, he's got to be on this list, top 3. I mean, he's a 2-time MVP. He is easily the best dual threat quarterback in the league. I mean, the way he can scramble with the ball, and his throwing has been called into question. He's gotten better. He hasn't always had a fantastic receiving core there in Baltimore to support him. They've gotten better. They got Zay Flowers. I think Lamar's in this list. He's young. He's athletic. He's everything you're looking for in a quarterback. So he's number 2 on my list. And then number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Best quarterback in the league. Best player in the league, without a question of a doubt.
Yeah, I think your guys' list good. I really like C.J. Stroud. Again, Justin is building the team for 2-3 years down the line, even the present. All right, I'm not gonna. You got some of the top picks there, some young guys mixed in. You know where I'm going. Some more veterans that are getting me the ring in the current. 3, this is where the debates come in. This is where I might get some angry looks through these screens. Number 3 is Mr. Joseph Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. Because of the debate, there is a debate. Now, again, I'm going to preface this, Justin. I see you staring me down through the screen for a second. Now, listen for a second. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, I think they're right there. They're right there. They both have skill sets that the other doesn't, and that's just in my opinion. I think that Burrow is a better pocket passer. I believe Josh Allen does better with his legs. And I think Josh Allen's a bit more durable than Joe Burrow so far. Joe Burrow has had an injury history. Yes, I go with Joe Burrow because of the pocket passing. Allen has struggled with some turnover issues the past few years. He's right there. They're right there. I lean to Burrow. That's my personal opinion. You have a different opinion. 2, I'm with Nate. Lamar Jackson. Dynamic playmaker. Throwing the ball. He has gotten better. There have been a lot of questions. Still needs to limit the turnovers. But just the overall dynamics, the game-changing dynamics he brings to the game at the quarterback position, number 2, and Patrick Mahomes, number 1. Honorable mentions, Allen and Herbert. Allen right on the cusp of 3. Justin, you have some comments I would like to hear.
All right, well, I'll reserve my Lamar Jackson comments just because he is a 2-time MVP. He's very good on the field, like you said. I think that you could make the argument that he's better, but I personally don't believe that, but that's just me. But agree to disagree. But with Joe Burrow, I just want to say, you mentioned the injuries. He's played 5 seasons now. He's only completed 2 of those seasons. If it doesn't matter how good a player is, if they can't complete the season, they're not worth it on your roster. I'm trying to win now and in the future, and I'm not sure he's going to complete enough seasons to win me a Super Bowl. That's just the honest truth.
He went to a Super Bowl.
He went to
a Super Bowl.
He went to 1 Super Bowl.
That's one more than Josh Allen's
Yes,
been to.
It was the
Josh
one that
Allen
he
made a
completed.
Super Bowl.
It was one of the
No.
2 seasons he completed.
Exactly.
Josh
So that
Allen
just
made a
shows you
Super
his
Bowl.
ability when he's healthy. I mean,
If that's when he's healthy.
counterintuitive
The
to your
top
point.
5
I can't guarantee he's going to finish a season.
And when he's healthy, he's better than Josh Allen. When he's healthy, he's better than Josh Allen.
I disagree with that notion. I think that you're right. He's a better pocket passer.
Yes. That's my opinion.
But
when he is
I
healthy,
also want a guy that's going to score when the play breaks down, and that's Josh Allen.
Listen, I like the Joe Burrow pick, Jake. I do. I think he's a great quarterback. He's got his injury issues, but he's right there in that top 5 conversation, encroaching on that top 3. I mean, he's been to a Super Bowl. I like the pick.
Agree to disagree. That's what this is for. You in the comments, if you're listening, watching, along, drop your top 3 to all of these positions and other positions we didn't get to. Maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll do some more positions. Who knows? The season is on the way. Final question, guys. New segment on the podcast. Question of the episode. Now, don't know how much you people are on TikTok recently, but one of the trends going on right now is where the guy asks the girlfriend or whoever, can you buy me NCAA 25? One of the biggest video games coming out shortly, the newest college football game. And the whole thing is, you see the text thread, and the girl's like, get 100,000 likes and a verified comment, and I'll buy you the game. Some people have gotten it, some people haven't gotten it. You have all these verified comments like, yeah, you got it, from like FanDuel and Charmin, and the team jumps in, and it's great. The question to you guys is, if someone asked you to buy the game for them, what are you acquiring in the return favor from that person? What are you requiring them to get for you to get them this game, essentially? What's your trade-off? What's the trade-off here?
Well, Jacob, as you know, NCAA 25, it's a very hot game. It's going to be tough to get. I'm going to have to spend 70 of my own dollars to get it for them. So I'm going to need something in return. You know what I want? I want 1,000 subscribers for the Lunch Hour Sports Podcast, YouTube channel, and Spotify followers. That's what I'm looking for. All right, you get me that? We get monetized. We're on a roll. Sure thing. That's the gift that keeps on giving right there. We get that anchor money finally. That's the gift that keeps on giving. So that's what I'm asking for. Please, I will buy you NCAA 25, guys.
All right, hey, you hear that? You hear that, viewers? We'll buy for you. You give us subs. If you guys have thoughts, I know I have one lined up.
This might be a little, I don't know if this transaction is going to be equal both ways, but I mean, if someone asked me to get them the game, I'd ask for like a ticket to Phillies game. And if they even make the World Series this year, which I'm going to knock on wood, hopefully they do, I'm going to be asking for a World Series ticket to see the Phillies.
I was thinking on a similar train of thought. My original proposal was for season tickets for Penn State, but I feel like that would be a little unfair in a trade. So I would just politely ask in return for box seats to the Penn State whiteout. That would be my request to get you the game. So
I feel like that's the same amount of money you're asking for.
it probably is, but
Might as well get the season ticket to that point.
yeah, but I feel like they'd be more inclined to get me tickets to one game than tickets to a whole season. So
Well, to wrap up for me, similar thought for Sam, going game, or even Nate, game tickets, or even a jersey. Game tickets and a jersey. I think that matches up. Game tickets to just a regular Phillies game. It doesn't have to be a playoff game, just a regular day. But I'm acquiring a jersey in addition. You're getting the game jersey. I think the price is around $100 at that point, over $100.
but which jersey, Jake?
Bryce Harper jersey. I will be specific. I do not have one, so There you go.
What's it going to be? Powder Blue? Is it going to be the City Connect or?
Not the City. No, not the City Connect,
No.
Sam. We're doing the Powder Blues. I do not have a Powder Blue. It'd be a Powder Blue and a game. I will buy you and save 24. Not the deluxe. Justin's going with the deluxe. I will buy you the regular game. Maybe some virtual coins if there is on the game. That's it. No. Well, hope everyone enjoys the game. Hope everyone enjoyed the episode. A lot of conversation, a lot of sports. And we'll keep these questions going. Every episode, we'll think of another question for the episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Stay tuned for more episodes on Spotify and YouTube.